Hello and welcome everybody to the wonderful 2-hour special presented by Jesse James Beads and Beadalon. What's up?
Hey.
So, guys, what we have for you today is a Rosé all day gift. Well, Rosé for the next 2 hours. Rose gold focused gift giving DIY gift making jewelry making special with your friends from Jesse James Beads and with your friends from Beadalon. Here we are. Welcome, ladies.
Yay.
Hello.
So you all know these faces. We're familiar to you. I, of course, am Sarah James. Over to my right over here is the amazing Meredith Roddy. What's up?
Yay.
And down below, we've got Jem Hawkes. How's it going, guys?
Oh my goodness, what a day. This is going to be so much fun though. Rose gold is my favorite, and designing with Jem is also a little bit my favorite. So I'm very excited about our event today.
I'm excited to be here as always. It's such a pleasure to work with Beadalon and Jesse James Beads products. We have got a fabulous collection of thingies to work with.
Thingies indeed. Pieces and parts.
Yeah, Jesse James Beads released the Rose Gold collection back in October, I think it was, which was my birthday month and Meredith's, which is very special because we both really love rose gold. So what better way to showcase rose gold components and beads and findings from Jesse James Beads than with rose gold wire with Beadalon? I can't think of a better thing.
100%. I mean, I am not a pink person, but rose gold is one of my favorite metal colors to work with. If I've not got copper, I'm working with rose gold. It's beautiful.
It's just another beautiful Beadalon Jesse James Beads partnership, because when you go onto Jesse James Beads website like I did this morning and you search on rose gold, there are so many beautiful beads and different opportunities and findings and chain that come up on the Jesse James Beads site, and also all of the Beadalon wire and different pieces and parts and components that we have, that just everything works together so well, so much so that let's see, what was it? Maybe 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock Easter time yesterday, I had all of my rose gold components out in front of me. I had all of my Jesse James beads out in front of me. I had the photo of Jem's amazing project. And then I had a complete designer breakdown because I was like, there are too many pieces and parts. There's too much inspiration. Jem's project is so amazing. I have to do something different. And I want it to be better, but it can't possibly be better because it's so good. And then a half an hour later, I came up with something that I think is going to be really fun.
Wow. Well, we are in for a treat. That was quite the announcement, quite the foreshadowing for Jem's project.
The build up, Sarah. The
build up. I'm like, words are hard on a Thursday. Thank you, Meredith. And another thing that's really great about rose gold is it's a newer metal. It's a trendy metal. You see it all around. There are a lot of cool things at Jesse James Beads. Thank you for the shout out on that, Meredith. And also, it's fun to put something together for a friend, for a loved one, when you're giving them a gift. So these are going to be some projects today that you could dig into your stash and use a different color wire if you have it, or use some different beads if you have them, or come on over to Jesse James Beads or Beadalon and get yourself some of this really deliciously pink wire and components. And Meredith, I just wanted to show really quick this shirt in the nature of gift giving. Meredith Roddy gifted me this shirt a little while ago. It says "Vibrating with Love and Light," which is a song lyric from a song that Meredith and I both share as one of our favorites. And Meredith made me this rose gold t-shirt, and I'm wearing it rose day all day jewelry making with you two ladies.
Sarah, that makes me so happy. My heart is so full right now. That's awesome.
Yay.
Oh,
amazing. Well, girls, ladies, let's do it to it. We have been talking about this rose gold. We've been hearing about Jem's project. We know about Meredith's is coming up. We're going to turn it down to the mat for Jem to do some wire working with us for the next hour, 50 minutes or so. Then Meredith is going to come back. We're going to welcome all three of us back here, talk to y'all face forward camera, and then we're going to switch over at the 2 o'clock hour for a project with Meredith. So Jem first, then Meredith, Rosé all day for the next 2 hours. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready. Yay.
All right. Then Jem, I am going to spotlight your camera over and out, everybody. We'll see you in the comments.
Hello, my darlings. I hope that you have had the most beautiful day. Here in Blighty, we have taken a turn for the sub-zeros, absolutely frosty. And I'm going to let you in on a little secret. If you've never been here, we're really, really rubbish at having hot weather. We're really, really rubbish at having super cold weather. We just like it somewhere in the middle. So the whole country's thrown into panic. That's what it's like over here. I hope that you are keeping safe no matter what your weather is like. Something to warm you up, though. Let's head down to the board. I want to show you the beautiful Colour Trends Rose Gold mix that we're going to work with today. So let me do a switcheroo on that camera. Here we go, down to the board. Now I'm working with 18 gauge and 26 gauge wire in the beautiful, beautiful artistic wire. It's such a perfect rose gold rendition. Sometimes out in the marketplace, I have purchased a rose gold coloured wire and it's been a hot pink. And I'm not into hot pink. I want my rose gold to look like rose gold, and this absolutely does. It's a beautiful metallic to work with. Quick look at what we're going to make together today. Now, the joy of a piece like this is that it can be as big or as small as you like. And you can change how it looks. If you get yourself one of those magnetic rhinestone encrusted clasps in a beautiful rose gold colourway, you can play along with a detachable piece like mine. Of course, you don't have to. You can simply make it as large or as small as you like. We're going to learn some key wiring techniques, and you can take away from it exactly what you wish. If you want to recreate the piece, you absolutely can. At the beginning of our show together today, I want to ask if you would prefer to see the heart used or the really cool ice cream cone used. So you guys get to pick which one of those I'm going to add on down at the bottom. Now let's just put that over to one side for now, but you can choose as we go through. So here's the remainder of my beads from the Rose Gold Colour Trends bead mix. That's what I have left over after making this fabulous project. And I've added in the clasp. I've added in that gorgeous hammered effect form as well. So you can grab those, have them rush into your cart. What I want to do as well today is show you the bead mix Rose Gold, the entirety of it. And I do love a good unboxing or an unbagging. So let's just slice open this bag and look at the beauty that is within. So the mix we're looking at is a Colour Trends bead mix in Rose Gold. I'm pretty sure that you'll be able to head on over to the site and find that if you fancy grabbing one. I know I do. Like I said, I'm not a pink person, but I'm definitely a Rose Gold girl. Do love mixing my metals and having components that are perfectly workable with all of your metals. This is a really, really good one to go for. It's going to look fabulous with yellow gold or with silver, even with antique copper and bronze. So what we have got in here are these two focals. So if you wanted to just make this segment and use it as earrings, then you've got two of those forms to work with. You might need to play around with the bead order, but we're going to use one of those today. I'm going to put the remainder in a pot. We have also got some fabulous faux pearl beads. You've got 4 of those. They look to be around about an 8mm. They're a really gorgeous colour. There's something really sultry about them. They're not flashy or showy. They're subtly elegant. Look at those shimmer. Absolutely gorgeous. We've also got a couple of rather large ovals. So I'm going to use one of those. Don't know where I'm going to hang it. Maybe over the front of the ice cream if there are more votes for ice cream, or inside the heart if there are more votes for heart. So I'm going to pop the other one of these gorgeous, massive ovals into my bowl, and I'll show you all those in a second. Hi from Oslo. Hello to you, my darling. I haven't been to Oslo in very many years, but a beautiful city nonetheless. My friend Irene lives there or thereabouts. We have got 4 of these opaque, jewel coloured, very, very large faceted rondelles. I'm going to keep a hold of one of those as I fancy using one, but you get 4 of those, and they're gorgeous because you have a very traditional peachy pink, but then you've also got the luster of a metallic on the other side. It's not quite a rose gold, it's a very subtle shimmer. Absolutely perfect. We've also got a rather huge bicone. I think we have 2 in this size. They're fantastic. We're going to reserve one of those for the project as well. So if you already have this fabulous mix and you want to make along with me today, I'll show you now what we're going to use all the way through. So let's pop that one over to the side. You've got 2 of these really beautiful, very, very feminine fabric floral drop charms. Absolutely gorgeous. Love those. Really lovely on the wrist because they're nice and soft. You've got 2 of the rondelles in that metallic sheen that's coated all the way around. They're the same size as the first ones we looked at, but you have that metallic coating all the way over. Really, really beautiful, very sizable indeed. You've got your choice of flowers as well. We're going to keep hold of one of those because I want to show you how you can layer up your Jessie James beads. There we go. We've also got, oh gosh, how many of these? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 faceted rhinestone spacer. I like to think of them as tires. You've got 6 of those. They're perfect in your bracelets, in your drop necklaces, 1,000,001 uses. Let's pop those over. We have got briolets, sometimes pronounced by some folk as briolet. I pronounce them as briolet. They are absolutely magnificent, really sizable and perfect facets. You've got a pair of those. You've also got a pair of these. I would say that they are round rather than rondelle, huge and very, very much more pink than you're seeing on my screen now. Gorgeous. And indeed, Alison, they are very romantic colours. We have got bead caps. Let's have a look. I think you get 4 of them, but some of them are nestled together. So you get 4 of those filigree bead caps in a subtle gold tone, which works perfectly with the mix. And then you've got metallics. We've got pumpkin spacers in, again, that subtle gold colour with a little bit of low lighting. I think they're pumpkins, but maybe there's another name for them. You've got 6 of those. We've also got a pair of diamonds. Diamond beads are fun because when you thread them and use them, even in fairly traditional beading, you get a really different flavour than if you're using square beads or round beads. So they're always fun to have and perfect in earrings. You've got 2 of those. And then we have 6 of these little babies, slightly smaller, but twinned with that large faceted rondelle. So you've got 6 of those, and we're going to use all 6. So those are the beads that we're going to use in the project today. And when we get more votes in a little bit later on, you can decide which of those drops you fancy adding on. So many beads in a mix, and I would not want to be able to try and get that back into the packet. It's like Pandora's box somehow, some way. So the wires that I'm going to use from our fabulous friends at Beadalon, artistic wire in rose gold colour. I prefer, if I had a desert island wire pairing, it would be 18 and 26. Sometimes you want something a little bit firmer than a 26, but you can always make do. 18 gauge is a fabulous wire to work with because when you warm that through between your thumb and forefinger, you are able to warm it and make it slightly softer. But in and of itself, it's a nice firm wire to work with. It's like a medium temper, just heading towards a slightly softer variation. So let's get down to business and have a look at the piece we're going to make. I'm going to put the wires out of view for a moment, but I'm going to show you all of the beads that we have left over that we haven't used. That's such a lot of beads to be working with. There they go. Let's pop those over to one side. Guaranteed going to boink those onto the floor at some point or another. Now, I misplaced my rose gold chain because, let's be honest, it's me and I'm a tad scatty. I've not been very, very well at this week, so I'm scattier than usual, I'm afraid. This, for me, is a very, very bling look. It's just ever so slightly to the touch, a little bit softer than the German style, but I think at the heart of it, it's pretty much the same, and it's maybe just feeling softer because of that rose gold colourway. Maybe I'm just imagining it. If you're working with the German style wire regularly, this won't be any different to you at all. You'll be working in exactly the same way, my darling. So I've made a very long drop. Now I'm presenting it as a necklace because, well, let's face it, I like necklaces and I like making necklaces. But what I wanted to share with you today with this beautiful combination of the rose gold sections that we have available to us, the rose gold wire and that gorgeous rose gold bead mix, is all about mobility. Mobility in your designs is where extra light can be caught. So if you're looking for something to be just a teeny tiny bit flashier than usual, allowing those facets to waggle around a bit by having joints in a long drop necklace really adds value to your designs. And it's certainly, if you're looking to go out over the next couple of weeks, maybe you fancy a little bit more bling than usual. Perhaps, perhaps not. It's absolutely up to you. So I really like working with slightly angular designs as well. And a recurring theme for me is Art Deco, or Art Deco as I believe it is known. So I will quite often drop in a surprising geometric form. So we're going to work on a couple of different concepts today. The first one that I want to work with is a basic link up at the top. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a bail as if this was a pendant. Now you can just hang it from ribbon and hang it from the tree if you prefer, or hang it wherever you want to. It's your design. You can do what you fancy. But I want to start off at the top and create that piece. So let's grab a short length of that 18 gauge wire. We'll just scooch this over to the side, I think. There we are. I've got a short length of the 18 gauge rose gold colourway wire at the moment, and this is the artistic wire, and I'm just straightening and heating that by running it between thumb and forefinger. The length is around about 3.5 to 4 inches. There we go. You have to excuse me if I'm a little bit breathless today. I'm just coming out the other end of a nasty cough. So if I stop talking for just a hot second, it's because my throat's a little bit raspy and I don't want you to have to hear that. So forgive me if there are any small silences. That's nice and warm. Teresa says Art Deco is the pronunciation. Certainly is for yourself. And I realise it comes from art decorative. Art decorative, but I've always called it Art Deco because I'm just a bit weird like that. So there we go. So that's nice and warm. Again, about 3.5 to 4 inches of that 18 gauge wire. We're going to start with a very, very simple loop down at the bottom, which we will add on to a component later on. So I'm not going to overly worry about that for now. I'm going to show you a little cheat as well. I've got my fabulous Beadalon round nose basics pliers, and I'm going to use the box joint of those to put a right angle bend. There's just a teeny tiny bit of wire sticking out the end. Create a right angle bend. And in that way, I've just used one pair of pliers to do the job of 2 pairs of pliers. It's lazy, but sometimes if you're in a hurry, it's helpful. What I'm going to do now is take my pliers just a little way from the end, on the end of the short section of wire, and just rotate that around, oops-a-daisy, to get a nice small loop shape. I want to just flatten that loop shape down a little bit and then make sure that there's a straight line coming away. So that loop is going to be added into our beautiful component a little bit later on. That's from the rose gold bead mix. So we're not going to worry about doing anything else to that right now. What I want to do is add in a gemmy looking gorgeous bead from that bead mix. So let's slide this 2-tone rondelle down into position. Now I don't want to push it too hard against that loop that we made at the bottom. Sissy is in. Hello, my darling. Hope you have something to hydrate with. I absolutely do, my love. Thank you very much. I've got some water and I've got some very, very brown looking almond milk for some reason. So I've added my bead of choice just to start up at the top of my design. And what we're going to do is to create a large wrapped loop. I tend to make my wrapped loops for pendants quite oversized because it means that I can put very chunky pendant findings through. So one of my favorite chains at the moment, let me just see if I can grab it off my neck just to show you the reason why. Something like that, you need to have a reasonable size to allow that to flow through the space at the top. So I tend to make these quite large so that I can work with any chain pendant that I desire. So what we're going to do now is grab some bent chain nose pliers. I tend to use these because it's easier for me to show you what's going on, but any flat facing plier will do. A standard, let's grab the set in that I always use. Beadalon chain nose pliers from the same range as that basics, the round nose. So they're really, really useful. And because they have that box joint, they're really, really handy. So what I'm going to do is look at whereabouts the gap is on my loop, the gap I want at the back. So if I hold the gap at the back and the curve at the front, I'm then going to pop my bent chain nose pliers over the top of that beautiful two-tone faceted rondelle. And I'm going to push the wire forwards. And you can see that I've left a reasonable gap between the bead and that forwards bend. And that's because I want to have a wrapped loop wrapping around a good couple of times. It's just twice on this one, but maybe more. And that means that it's going to be nice and strong and should last for years. Now, I don't think I have my 2-step bail makers with me today. I think they're in the other room, but I've got my 6-step. So I'm probably going to use step number 5, my Beadalon 6-step bail makers. You could use the 2-step or you could use a pencil. And what I'm going to do is start creating a round form at the top of that small straight bit and draw the wire all the way around. So again, you could use a pencil if you wanted to, but I absolutely love having those bail makers to hand. They're really, really useful and I do use them quite a lot. Is the open triangle in the bead mix. This one, we're going to make that together, my lovely. That is going to be crafted with some 18 gauge wire in the rose gold colorway. So it's not as complicated as it looks. It just takes a little moment of practice and I hope that you will enjoy having fun with that as well. So once I've got the round form, what I want to do is make sure that that's reasonably flat. Now you might be able to see there's a bit of a gap. Let's just rotate that up to the camera. There's a tiny bit of a gap. Don't worry about that because when we squish this down, when we start rotating this tail of wire around the neck of the piece, we're going to tighten that up. So I'm just going to super warm that next section of wire. And I'm going to very carefully support the round form that we've made. I'm not crushing anywhere wires cross over one another. I'm just holding that nice and tight up at the top. Now I've brought that to 3 wraps. It could be 2 wraps, it could be 3, it could be 4. Just fill the space, but don't squash your beautiful bead down too hard. We want to preserve that in its perfect form. We don't want to chip it or smash it. So I'm going to warm that last little tail of wire up and grab my round nose Beadalon pliers. So let's spin that around. I'm starting very close to the end of my pliers and very close to the end of the wire. Now, sometimes in the studio, what will happen is the pliers will slip off the end of that wire purely because it's quite warm. It's quite warm under the studio lights. So if that happens to you, don't fret, just get back to it and start moving that coil. I use my non-dominant hand to support the piece and rotate that coil in very small movements. Now, people ask me quite often how I get the coils so neat. I get them neat because I take time. I don't ever rush it. So what I've done is I've got that coil and it's sitting forwards at the moment. So this is the back of the design where the loop opens. This is the front of the design where the loop is that nice angled flowing bend. What I want to do now is just push this coil we've made back into that wrapped loop up at the top. And it just adds to the detail. You can make a much larger length of wire if you want to. We started with about 3.5 inches. If you want a significantly larger spiral to sit over the surface of your wrapped loop, like this one, you might want to start with slightly longer. I actually think it looks quite cute with just a little loop, a little coil peeking over the first half. So that's the first section of our piece today. And what we're going to do is have a look now at adding component parts over this gorgeous filigree piece. Now it looks to be textured on both sides. Sometimes a section like this, which could be a connector or simply a dropper, could be just a charm. Sometimes they're textured on one side and not the other. So what you can do is just make sure, if you're making this as an earring, just the top bit, that you have the same texture forwards. So before I connect my components, I want to wire on some beads and also wire on the flower over the front. Now that's absolutely optional. You can just go for the beads around the base, but what we'll do is wire on these beads first, and then you can see what it looks like without the beautiful rose on the surface. You may prefer it without. I'm new to watching things like this. Will I be able to watch a replay of this? As far as I'm aware, you will be able to see a replay of this. I will confer with Sarah when I meet her again at 5 to whatever time it will be in just over half an hour. So let's get cracking, shall we? I have cut myself a length now of about 18 inches of the 26 gauge rose gold colour wire. And what I'd like to do is start by adding these beads on. Now, to make my life easier, I find the centre point of the finer gauge wire. Let's just scooch those up a sec. And I'm going to pass the one end of the wire through the very lowermost hole. So you can see that against my finger where that's going all the way through, and take it so that it's halfway through the pendant or the drop component. And you can make that exact if you want to. What I want to do now is wrap 3 times around the lower side on the right hand side. Oh, that's a good angle. The light's happy to just sit there and shine for us. So let's pop the wire through the same hole we went through a moment ago. Push that wire all the way through. And this is where working with a 26 gauge over a 24 gauge benefits you. I think actually I'm only going to rotate twice, because that will leave me a little bit more space down at the bottom to attach the next component in line. So what I'm going to do is, when I'm working with a lighter wire, it's fine to just run your thumb and finger over that one time. What you don't want to do is overwork it, because when you're warming the wire, if you're newer to wire work, when you're warming the wire, you're starting a process of warming it to make it more smooth and fluid and softer. But when it hardens, it's harder than it was before. It's a process called work hardening. So what I'm going to do now is grab one of the 6 matched 2-tone rondelles. I'm going to slide that all the way down so that it sits against the form that we're working together. And I'm going to pinch that bead into position. What I want to draw your attention to is that my finer gauge wire has come from underneath the component. Whoop, stick that into position, and then I'm going to take the end of the wire over the top. So my finer gauge wire has travelled from underneath, and it's going to go over the top and into the next aperture along, the next hole along. But I want to make sure that that bead sits elegantly against the form. So I'm going to put just a tiny bit of pressure there, bring the wire through and pull that until it's taut. So what I'm looking for is a taut wire, but a safe bead. So the finer gauge wire looped twice around the form, through the bead, from underneath to over the top. So I'm going to repeat that again by putting the tip of the wire through the same hole we went through a second ago. Make sure that that travels and sits neatly next to the first one. And then I'm going to add in the next bead. The reason I was cautioning you about overworking finer gauge wire, we're working with a 26 gauge, is that it can become brittle before you wanted it to be brittle. Sally asks, is it 26 gauge? It absolutely is. So what I'm going to do is grip hold of that bead, and we're going to repeat the same process. So finer gauge wire, the 26 gauge, is coming from underneath the form. Push the bead into position and take the wire through over the top into the next available space. So let's pop that through, all the way through neatly. A little bit of tension, but don't smash your bead. And I'm going to repeat that for a second time. So the tail of wire, hopefully if I glint this in the light, you'll see exactly where we're going. Like so. Take the tip of the wire through that gap, keeping the coil of wire adjacent to the preceding one. And then a little bit of tension. That's nice and neat. These beads are not going anywhere. So let's add the third bead on this side. Allow the bead to sit down into position, and it might sit at just a slightly different angle because you can see the shape of the form we're working with changes ever so slightly. So I'm just going to pull that up slightly, take the tip of the wire and put it down through the next available aperture. And then because I'm going to be finishing off here, I don't think that 2 wraps of wire is enough. So I'm going to see if I can get a 3rd wrap of wire through the same aperture up here at the top on the right. So that's 2. Pull that nice and firmly through. I want those 2 wires to sit side by side where possible. I'll bring that up slightly. It will go ever so slightly blurry, but you'll be able to see that the 2 wires are side by side there. And then I'm going to push that wire through the same hole. She says putting it through the wrong one. Pull the end on the other side and get that nice and neat and tidy. So that now sits firmly and these beads are not going to go anywhere. So using the slightly lighter 26 gauge as opposed to a 24 gauge in this instance is quite handy because you want some flexibility. Now I think I'm going to go for 2 wraps without a bead just in the next adjacent hole, because what it means I'll be able to do, so there's 1 wrap and a half a wrap. I've decided that this is the front of my project. And what I don't want is to have any sticky uppy bits. That's usable length of wire. So put that to one side in your scrap pot. You might find a use for it later. And I've just got a little tiny tail of wire up on the top. And I'm just going to flatten that very, very softly. And the reason I'm flattening that with the cut end on the surface is because if this rear side, the side that's against my fingers now, is against the hand, I don't want any sticky outy bits to hurt me or to catch on clothes. So you can then repeat exactly the same process on the other side. What you will notice is that your finer gauge wire, rather than coming from underneath, is coming over the top when it exits the form. I'll show you what I mean. So I've gone for 2 wraps again. Bring that ever so slightly up. My finer gauge wire is coming over the top. Now, that means that your wrap isn't exactly symmetrical, but it means that you have fewer cut ends of your wire. And it's important to me when I'm creating jewellery to teach that the jewellery that's made lasts for a long time and isn't just some flimsy, flamsy bit of stuff that might break if somebody wears it. So I am giving a little bit of my OCD a break. And I'm saying that it won't be perfectly symmetrical, but it will last a heck of a lot longer being nice and neat and tidy and having just the 1 piece of fine wire running all the way through. So on the second side, we're looking at the piece upside down now. You can turn that around so you get the same tone if you want to. The finer gauge wires come over the top of the form. So I need to grip that bead and bring the tail of the wire underneath into the next adjacent space, the next available aperture. Pull that nice and firmly. So let's just hold that still for a second, slightly higher. What you'll see on the right-hand side is you've got a slightly larger stripe of wire that's visible. And on the right-hand side, it will look slightly different. So you're losing symmetry, but you're gaining security. So I'm going to take that through for a 2nd wrap in the same aperture that we just added that bead to. Pull that nice and firmly into position. And because we went for 2 wraps between the beads, I'm going to keep to that on both sides because it does allow for as much symmetry as you can possibly achieve. You'll be looking to place those beads in the same spaces on either side. Again, bearing in mind this is upside down. That's what it looks like the right way up. I mean, you might want to use it in this orientation. I think it's quite elegant, actually. And you can turn those beads so that you have the same colorway if you want. I actually quite like them random or doubled. So again, fine wire goes through and out the top of the form, through the bead. So I need to bring the tail underneath and into that next available aperture. So I'm going to bring that firmly and securely through without smashing my bead and put that through for a 2nd time. I'm going to speed up on this 2nd side a little bit because I want to move on to the next part of our project. Bosh! Allow that to sit where you would like it to sit so that it is the same as it is on the other side. And I might just bring that so that the slightly pinker hue is more visible. You can grip your bead into position, bring that tail through. And if you remember, on the first side, we did 2 wraps in the first aperture. And then I finished with another couple of wraps in the next available aperture without adding a bead. Just adds security and longevity to your designs. Let's get that all the way through. This is always really, really cool when I can't actually see, because I'm short-sighted, but also slightly long-sighted in my great advancing age. So let's bring that last section of wire through the gap. You can finish off where you feel. As long as you've got a good couple of wraps, it'll be nice and secure. So if I turn this up into the correct orientation, again, I'm going to cut the wire so that it truncates on the front of the design. And then I'm going to give that a very gentle little squish to make sure that those wires sit down neat and tidy. So that's our second piece that we've created together already. So you have an option in a moment to add on this beautiful, I don't know if it's lucite, I'm not entirely sure what the product is made from, but we can add that on to the front of the shield if you like. I think it has quite a romantic, almost pre-Raphaelite feel to it with the flower. So do you remember from the first side of the wire, we had quite a stubby piece of that 26 gauge left over? The wire is round, my lovely. The wire that we're using today, it's round, artistic, 26 gauge and 18 gauge. They're both round. The bead mix we're using is Colour Trends Bead Mix in Rose Gold. So what we're going to do is find the drill aperture on the back of our gorgeous rose, and I'm going to take this. This again is just a scrap piece of wire. It's only about 3 inches in length, and it's the 26 gauge. And I'm just going to fold that so that it sits centrally on my piece of wire. Now, you don't have to add this if you prefer the design without. And what we're going to do is just smooth those wires through just a handful of times. Don't overstress them. And what we need to do is find out whereabouts we would like to site our flower. So I'm going to just choose these 2 apertures. They ideally, you want it to go through symmetrical holes. So you can see where I'm putting those through. Push that all the way through, and then we're going to flip the design over and ensure that our bead is exactly where we want it to be. And then just bring those wires out to either side. So I've just pulled them, making sure the bead is sighted where I want it to be. And all we're going to do is wrap through whatever piece of the form you can easily get to. And I'm going to assist myself by using my pliers. It's gone slightly sideways, but never mind. We'll just straighten that up. And I'm looking for 3 neat, tight, coiled wraps around that frame to add security to the design. So I've got 3 wraps on this side. I'm going to go for 3 wraps on the other side as well, and I'll do this one by hand just to show you why I tend to use pliers for these things. Now, at this stage, before I pull that super taut, I'm going to flip it over and make sure that I'm happy with the positioning. That looks pretty good to me. The reason I prefer to use pliers for this is I can get just a little bit of extra tension. Now, I don't want to pull it so hard that I split the bead or deform the frame we're working with. Just need to get that little bit of extra tension, because in wire work, movement of your wire or the components that you're not planning for can cause a catastrophic failure. So what we're looking for is to have movement where we want it. Now, this is designed movement. If you've got too much looseness in the bead over the surface, it may not particularly enjoy wiggling around so much. So you can see I've taken 3 wraps around the frame. The rose bead is sitting quite where I want it to. That's pretty good for me. And I'm going to bring those 2 little ratty tails over the front and just trim them away exactly the same way as we did before. These have probably seen a little bit too much action now to be used for anything else, so they are going in the melt pot. And I'm just going to push those last little sections down so they're flat and safe over the surface of the design. They'll be disguised behind the flower, so you won't really see them. So that's the first 2 parts of our design. So let's put that together. What I'm going to do you remember the loop that we made? I'm going to give that a quick squish to make sure it's nice and strong. What I'm then going to do is to support the bead and protect it from my tool as I open sideways, like you would a jump ring, that loop that we created. And I'm just going to pop the second form inside that loop And I'm going to close that loop back up again. I need to make sure that that's reasonably close, like so. And I'm happy that we've created the first jointed section of our project together. So let's give that a wiggle. I really like using a jointed project. And can you see how having those two-tone beads, you've almost got two different looks already. And I really like that. I really like that. So let's pop those up to the top. What we're going to do next is to create this beautiful diamond. It's not a diamond, it's a triangle, but it makes me think of diamonds. So I've got a section of wire which I cut earlier. This is round 18 gauge rose gold. It is this one. And I've got about 12 inches here, which is way more than I need, but it will enable me to show you how you can build a slightly larger art deco form if you prefer. So I'm going to run thumb and forefinger over the wire just a couple of times for the first sort of 6 or 8 inches or so to get that nice and fluid. What I'm also going to do is make sure that that end is trimmed with the semi-flush cutters so that you've got that flush end rather than the slightly sideways end. What we're going to do now is start by turning an angle with your chain nose pliers. I'm using my bent chain nose pliers, and I'm going to bring that further than 90 degrees so it sits inside. The joy of a project like this is you have got so much opportunity to change those angles. Thank you, Tutau. I appreciate that. You absolutely do need to check if you have this bead mix. It's a beauty. So what I'm going to do now is decide how large I want the inside gap of my beautiful triangle shape to be. And I think that's pretty decent for what I'm looking for. And I'm going to push the wire up firmly with my thumb. And my thumb gets slightly in the way, but it is the best way to get a really nice, strong angle. If you find that the angle you've created is a little bit soft, what you can do is just open and close that very carefully a couple of times, and you'll find that that angle tightens up slightly, and it's just moving the wire around. There we go. So what we're going to do now is have a look and see if that sits elegantly. If you have a board that has lines on it, I usually work with a fake brick wall board because it's got lots of straight lines and it enables me to see if my angles are good. So what we're looking to create now is another sharp bend coming across over the top, but it will need to be just ever so slightly higher than the first angle you made because I keep wanting to call it a diamond. Your triangle shape is getting larger as the wire moves around. So I'm going to push that over and see what that looks like. If it's a little bit too tight, I'm going to show you how to open that up. I'm just going to push my bent chain nose pliers in a couple of times and open and close those pliers, and you'll find that the angle moves up ever so slightly. These little tweaks are things that you'll benefit if you've got scraps of wire. You'll benefit from playing with the scraps before you throw them away in the experience bin, the learning library as I like to think of it, because you'll get to understand the tolerances of wire and what the wire is able to do for you. So we're going to go for another turn around the outside. So I'm going to turn it onto its side and I'm going to bring those pliers in. And I'm going to put the bent chain nose pliers just a little bit further in this direction than I think I need. Because what happens when you bring that wire back through is that can tighten up a little bit more than you think it will. If you make it too large, you can employ rather the same technique and just move that round. So you can make as many turns. I've made this one slightly more equilateral than this one. I can't remember the proper geometric terminology for triangles. It was a long time ago that I learnt about, who was that guy, Pythagoras? Yeah, it's been a long time since I thought about Pythagoras, so I don't remember the names. This one's a slightly more equal-sided one. And I'm just going to keep going until I have as many runs around that triangular form as I feel fit. So I think this is going to be my last change of angle. And I'm going to bring the next angle upright at the center point. So if you feel that you want to sharpen up any of those angles, again, you can just open and close that wire just a couple of times and it sharpens, also hardening, which is really helpful. If you wanted an inverted triangle, you're not going to have anywhere to hang anything off the bottom. However, if you wanted an inverted triangle and have no plans of adding anything further, then that's an option for you. So I actually quite like to see them inverted like so. I think they're very elegant and they elongate the neckline. If you're anything like myself, I have quite a short neck, so I can use all the elongating I can get. So I've just turned an upright angle going towards the 12 o'clock position at the center of my triangular form. It's not quite as hard or sharp as I want it to be, so I'm going to just very, very gently give that a wiggle. And again, I urge you to use your scraps to learn wire tolerances. It's better that you learn on a scrap how far you can push it before it becomes weak and before it's likely to break. So do have a play with your offcuts. Now I'm going to take in this gorgeous bicone. Now I love all beads, but the bicone form is such a dynamic shape. Hopefully, perhaps next year, sometime in the spring, there might be some bicones in my future. Perhaps there might be some bicones. I'll have to talk to Sarah. I do love a bicone. So what we're going to do now is a very simple loop up at the top of this design. So I don't want to have a great big space. Do you remember we left a space above our faceted rondelle so that we could create a wrapped loop? I don't want a wrapped loop this time. I want a simple loop. So I'm going to take my chain nose pliers across that wire. And it's going to be just above that bicone. Now I don't want to touch the the bicone with my pliers. I want to allow that little bit of space, a little bit of protection zone. And I'm going to turn the wire forwards at around about 45 degrees to the straight. What we're going to do then is make a round form. So you can use your multi-step bail makers if you like, or you can use your simple round nose pliers. I'm going to go for the simple Beadalon round nose pliers. Fabulous box joint in these. I've had them quite a while and they work really beautifully. So I'm going to rotate the pliers around just close to that angle to get the first half of that round shape. I'm going to pop the pliers back in again and then draw the tail all the way around. And now I always make my loops in 2 stages. It gives you a lot of control. If you're in a hurry and you're an experienced wire worker, you can absolutely 100% make loops all day long, very, very quickly. But because I'm teaching to people who may not have had as much experience with wire, I like to teach the 2-step technique. So what I'm looking to do now is get the flush side of my semi-flush cutters and trim that wire away. And then I'm going to open and close the loop a couple of times. What I'm actually going to do is squish it with my pliers. It's a much more effective way. I'm going to give that a hearty squish. That has really strengthened, and it's almost like a memory has been given to the wire now. Good morning to Lorena in California. Hello, my darling. Would I want to hammer this? You could hammer, but don't go past the turn. Don't go past where we made that last angle. Otherwise, when you try to make the loop, it will be pre-weakened. You absolutely could hammer the, I'm going to call it a diamond shape yet again. That triangular form, you absolutely can hammer. So what we're going to do now is add this into the 3rd segment of our jointed drop. I'm presenting it as a necklace. I like this as a necklace, but as a piece of decoration and as a series of techniques, it's really, really lovely. So you can see I've just hooked in through that loop at the bottom where we started wiring on those beads. And I'm going to open and close this simple loop as if I was opening and closing a jump ring. And that will preserve the integrity of the strength of the design. So let's pop that back down on the board and see how we're getting on building a replica. So I've made a much larger design with the triangle form here. Now I don't have another rose gold magnetic clasp, but what I've done is just used simple rose gold jump rings either side of that clasp. So you can absolutely 100% grab a pack of those as well, or if you're struggling to mix and match your metals, another joy of the Beadalon multi-step or 2-step bell makers, let's just trim that end away, is that in a pinch you can make your own. So let's make a couple on this number 3 design. I'm just going to rotate a section of that scrap wire and just rotate and rotate and rotate, and you can build that so that it moves off the end. And in a pinch, you can have some jump rings in a couple of seconds. Now, what I'm looking to do here is use the flush side so that I get one good jump ring. What I'm going to do then is use the flush side on that last little bit of tail, trim that section away. I put my thumb over it to stop it going in my eye, not to prevent you from seeing what's going on. And then what we're going to do is flip them over. So we've got a flush side here, and I've got 2 will work in a pinch jump rings. What I tend to do is just give those a bit of a squish and a squeeze to strengthen them before I use them. This hasn't actually formed very well, but as I say, it's just in a pinch. I would encourage you to buy the packs of ready-made jump rings where you can. They're a beautiful metal match colour. I've slightly mangled that one, but in a pinch, it will work. Certainly in earrings, I wouldn't hesitate to use those. I would definitely get some saw cut jump rings for projects like this, though. Okay, so that's how you would attach to your absolutely stunning magnetic rose gold rhinestone encrusted clasp. Bicones are a perfect fit. Yes, they are. Thank you very much for watching, darling. Hardy squish. Yes, hardy squish is perhaps not a technical term according to other people, but for me, it absolutely is. So I just need to grab back one of those jump rings, actually. I'll try and find a slightly nice one, because we're going to imagine that we've got a second beautiful magnetic clasp in here. And what we're going to look to do is layer up a form and a bead. Again, we're adding movement to a design. So I'm not suggesting that you go jogging whilst wearing really fancy jewellery, although if you want to, that's absolutely up to you. You most certainly can. What I'm looking to have is movement which adds dynamism to your jewellery. And if you make your jewellery to sell, having a video of something like this sells 1,000 times more intuitively, because people can see the movement of the design. So let's grab the last section of that gorgeous 18 gauge wire, and we're only going to need quite a short length. This again is about 3.5 inches, and I want to make a double coil down at the bottom. So I'm going to grab very close to the end of my round nose pliers, spin that around. Once I've got that coil started, I'm going to squash it flat, again with a hardy squish. I'm going to keep rotating that around until I have 2 passes of wire. So we've got a start point, around once, around twice. When we get to the section where the wire leaves that loop, I'm going to put my pliers underneath, grip a hold of that coil and push the coil sideways. What I'm looking to generate here is a straight line of wire. So I'm just going to give that a quick straighten, with a double coil on the end. And that for me is a really nice instant head pin onto which we can thread our bead. And I'm then going to, at 90 degrees to that first shape that we made, again, I'm going to protect my bead and push that wire forwards just above the top. And then we will use our beautiful Beadalon round nose pliers to create that first half of the loop. Pop the pliers back in, draw the wire around to create the second half of the loop. Again, this is a simple loop. And we're going to trim away. Make sure you trim the right wire. There's nothing quite so sad as snipping the wrong bit. Many of us have been there. And I'm going to make sure that that simple loop is at 90 degrees to the coil. And the reason I want that to happen is because I want to post it through a jump ring, the same jump ring that I used to post onto the heart-shaped form that we're going to use. So making sure that that's nice and strong. What I'm going to do is just assemble those very, very briefly together. I'm going to give that hastily made jump ring. Please do grab a pack of jump rings. Saw cut machined jump rings are much stronger than what I've just made here. This is almost like just an instant use one. So in actual fact, what I have got to do is, let's have a look at this. I think I might have made an error in judgment. So I need to put the jump ring through the form. It's possible that for this design, I need the loop at the top to be in the same orientation. So this is a really useful teaching part that I'm not ashamed to have made an error on. With a wire loop like this, you've got one opportunity to twist that, so that both the coil at the bottom and the loop at the top are now in the same orientation. because we warm our wire before we work it, you have an opportunity to change that around a little bit. So let's add the drop bead charm over the surface of the heart form, and let's add that directly into the triangle down at the base here. So if I was a professional chainmail expert like my friend Fleur, I would be using 2 pairs of pliers to open and close all of my jump rings. So let's just twist and rotate that back so that it's complete. Oh, it's not so easy when it's not right under your nose, you know. There we go. So let's just lay that down. And you'll see, obviously, you have the opportunity to add in that rhinestone encrusted magnetic clasp if you have one. And I do encourage you to get one. What I would say, though, is if you have a device that is inside your body that relies on electromagnetism, do take your physician's advice, such as a pacemaker, before using a magnetic clasp, because even though it's a very tiny magnet, you just want to be better safe than sorry. So yes, indeed, somebody asked if we could hammer the triangle form. Absolutely, but not past the junction here, because you don't want to make the wire brittle before you make that loop shape. You don't have to put the rose on the front if you don't want to, but all of those different little bits of joints in wear will make this sparkle extra. So I hope that you have enjoyed that. You could, of course, go for an ice cream. Maybe you could even go for caged crystals. So many choices. That would look really cool, actually, suspended inside the heart. A little bit more bling. And who doesn't love a little bit of bling? So I've really loved working with my colour trends in rose gold. Let's just grab the remainder of that mix over. And you've got some beautiful matching components. And you have, of course, the fantastic artistic wire in 26 gauge round and 18 gauge round. Let's just ooch everything over a tad. There we go. I have to be careful with magnetics. Yes, indeed. Please do be aware. It's always safer to ask for advice before using a magnetic clasp. For most of us, they're absolutely wonderful. So that's what we've made together today. I hope that you've enjoyed them. If it weren't for you, I'd never have signed up for the workshop 3 days before it started. Thank you. I had fun. Oh, Lorena, that's lovely. Thank you so much. That's really kind of you. I hope that you've all enjoyed our Rosé all day. The first hour with myself, Jem Hawkes, and with the beautiful folks at Beadalon and Jessie James Beads. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And I've got so much left to play with. So I'm expecting to be rejoined at any moment by Sarah and Meredith, who are going to take you through the next hour. What Meredith has planned, well, she said she was looking to compete, and I'm not a very competitive person at all. You can sit there and laugh. You can hide.
It wasn't so much of a competition as I wanted to make sure that I did not look bad.
You never look bad. I have seen your work. Honestly, how could you ever think that? My gosh.
When you sent me the photo, I was so impressed, Jem. And then after listening to your beautiful voice for the past hour, and now everyone has to listen to my nasally American accent.
Are you kidding? You folks are wonderful. I love hanging out.
It's too hard on ourselves up here in the upper right corner. You two are amazing, the both of you. All of us here in the crowd are the lucky ones to get to learn from such amazing talents and just like life forces of females here in the jewelry making industry.
Life forces of female. Yes. Always bringing each other up and giving each other inspiration and encouragement.
Always encouragement. I mean, there's so much negativity out there in the world that if you can smile at somebody who looks sad, it could change their day. You know, I was told that when I was 7 years old, and I randomly smile at strangers and they must think I'm an absolute lunatic. But anyway.
But I bet you give them a smile in their heart and the inside, and that's all that matters.
I hope so.
Yeah. Wonderful. And it's so great that we have this space that we can share our smiles and talent and ideas and inspiration. It's really, we are so lucky to be able to have such cool products to play with and
Oh,
such amazing designers to give us a little, zhuzh on how to make them smile and dance.
absolutely. So, I mean, smiling, dancing crystals, beautiful wire and metallics, absolutely fabulous collection. Like I said at the top of the show, I'm not a pink person, but rose gold definitely has my heart. It's a beautiful collection.
Jem, the project that you made was beautiful. Meredith, what did you think?
Like I said, Jem sent me a photo yesterday. We were doing some in cahoots beforehand. I wanted to make sure that what I was making was complementary and not too similar to what she was making. And I was blown away and a little bit stopped in my tracks by what a beautiful pendant that she made. And I love the idea of using the magnetic clasp as well as a component of the design rather than as a component of being hardware, because the findings that you have in this collection, Sarah, are beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
I do love using the magnetic clasps at the front. Sometimes I will design, and I'm not good with asymmetry, but I will want that on show because they're so pretty.
Yvette and I were just talking on Monday about asymmetrical designs and how I like a pattern. And whenever I go outside of my comfort zone, that's when I have to start thinking of doing things not in order. And even when I'm trying to do things not in order, I find order comes into it. It's just how my brain works. It's just how I'm wired.
100% with you. I tried to make a jumble necklace and I ended up twinning it. I delved into my box of jumbled beads and it was like, no, I can't do it. There's 2 of those. They're going there.
Yeah, it doesn't feel right in my soul when things aren't even.
No.
I love a good challenge though, for Jem, who's not much of a pink person, and for someone that loves symmetry, to, give yourself a challenge to do something different. Wouldn't that be fun to come up with like a whole big bunch of like jewelry making challenges and throw them into a hat? And then our designers, or like I could pick them for you maybe, and be like, okay, Meredith, your design challenge is to do asymmetry, and Jem's, yours will be to recreate Meredith's seed bead project.
No, I knew you were going to say.
Although Sarah, to be fair,
I'm
each time we try to come up with a project for one of our camps or one of our special workshops, that's always a challenge for me.
Well, that's where the growth happens.
Yep. Sarah knows how to bring me out of my comfort zone and she knows I can do it. She just needs me to put my mind to it.
It's like all of us together growing and learning, whether it's, at a Jessie James Beads workshop, or whether it's us coming online on the Beadalon channel every Thursday or the Jessie James channel. There's always a challenge. There's always going to be something that you haven't done before that you can say to yourself, I am going to watch this. I am going to give myself grace and patience, and I will do it. And even if it ends up in, I love this term, Jem, the experience bin, aka the scrap pot, aka the trash.
Yeah, basically it's the trash, but you learn.
But you learned from it, and that's something. And that's
absolutely.
So Sarah, I think that is a very good segue. I need to turn my camera upside down. I have a little bit of a different setup today, and then we can go, we can start talking about some different kinds of challenges.
I love this. Awesome. Well, Meredith is going to be getting herself ready here. I want to just give a huge thanks to Jem Hawkes for being such an amazing worker of wire and coming out to share your talents with us here at Jessie James Beads and today at Beadalon. What a treat.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I mean, I love working with you guys at Jessie James Beads. It was actually Meredith at Beadalon who introduced us. We'll be forever grateful. It's been a fantastic project. I've had an absolutely wonderful time. Thank you so much for allowing me to travel across the Atlantic and join you.
Sarah, give me one more second. I'm so sorry. I'm
And
having
I
some
am just going
technical
to shout out real
difficulties.
quick more for Jem. If you love this video, you can watch Jem live every Thursday on the Jesse James Beads page on Facebook at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And you can also catch Jem on her own channel on YouTube. And Jem, I'll let you plug that one.
So you see my name just here. It's just at and then Jem Hawkes, and you'll find me. I can never quite get the pointing in the right place. We tried to do a Mexican wave yesterday and I completely failed.
Oh, I thought we did good on Tuesday with that.
No, you guys were great. It was me. I'm like, whoa, no, it's all gone wrong.
Flippity floppity. Yes, that was great fun. There's been a lot of really good content this December online. Just us getting together, us three being here to do a Rosé all day double header special with Jem at 1 p.m., Meredith at 2 p.m. Eastern. This is just great fun. Whether you're needing some inspiration for your own DIY gifts that you're making at home, or you're thinking, well, I want to get some new rose gold beads for 2023. All of that is available. And the inspiration that we just experienced here with you, Jem, was like off the charts.
I really appreciate that. I mean, it's absolutely up to you guys if you want to recreate the design. But I hope at the very least there's some takeaways from the individual techniques, from the simple loop, the loop, even the wrapped loop, and making something a bit more geometric, adding movement to your designs. If you didn't want to do the whole thing, then hopefully there's something that will be of benefit to you, and that will make me very, very happy.
Give me just 1 second, Jem.
Of course. Should I talk?
Yes. Can you talk?
I can talk.
Tell us more.
So rose gold really came out of nowhere and surprised us all. In about 2015, 2016, people were still very much into their platinums, the white golds, the traditional yellow golds, the buttery 24 karat, the pure gold colors. And then about sort of 7 years ago, rose gold was suddenly everywhere. It wasn't just in jewelry, but it was in homewares. It was on wine glasses. It was on bar stools, entire kitchens in rose gold. And I don't see it going away anytime soon. So definitely grab yourself a Colour Trends rose gold bead mix. Such a mouthful. I mean, I swear that they give me this script which is like this long and it's just the name of the bead mix. But I have had an absolutely delightful time, and the wire to work with from our gorgeous Beadalon artistic wire, I've used today 18 gauge and 26 gauge. You can use a slightly stronger wire for the heavy, but I would say to get that bead wrapping technique, it's really key to go for a 26 gauge. It's beautiful and flexible, but you do still have enough strength in that wire to hold everything together.
Jem, I've got a quick question for you about wire, since I know that you work with wire all the time. So I know that 18 gauge and 22 gauge are your desert island wire, and I just love that you referred to it as that. That is like so perfect. But in terms of wire, with an artistic wire or with a German style wire, what is your preference on like the temper of the wire?
I tend to work a heck of a lot with a really, really soft wire, which is called raw copper. So it's sometimes referred to lovingly as dead soft, which I think is horrible. And I wish that they wouldn't call it that, but they do. And you can create really funky designs that a firmer wire is slightly less willing to give you. So I would encourage you to try lots of different wire styles. I work with German style wire all the time here at Jesse James Beads and with Beadalon, and it's fantastic because you have a strength. You can still take your wire and you can still make that nice and warm and smooth and fluid, and it will do the things you need it to do, but it has a residual strength to it, which is hi. Hello. It's really, really handy to be able to have that strength without having to start hammering or using your nylon jaw pliers.
Yes, because I saw someone mention that in the crowd, and I'm not sure who it is now, but someone had mentioned, should you take that that beautiful triangle structure that you made and hammer it with a rubber hammer? And I know the answer because I watch Jem all the time. This is a weekly event over at Jessie James. And I know with Jem, because she's warming her wire, that is actually doing the hardening for you without needing to get the whacking going.
You absolutely can simply use the fact that you pre-warmed your wire. It makes your life easier when you're forming the shape, but over the 24 to 48 hours as it cools back down, unless obviously you're somewhere really tropical and then it will stay floppy, it will be ever so slightly harder than when you started.
Okay.
But with a flat form where no wires cross over, like the central section, you absolutely can harden it. And I encourage you again to take scraps of wire, make coils, make geometric shapes, and try hammering them. I have a fabulous little teeny tiny hammering block that I tend to use on screen because it means that it's just small, it doesn't take up too much space. So yeah, absolutely delve into also my new favorite hammer, my Beadalon chasing hammer. Thank you. Absolutely fantastic. It's got a very, very subtle flat surface to it. Absolutely perfect for taking a form like the triangle that we learned today. If I call it diamond one more time, I'm literally going to walk out on myself. And it will just give it a little bit of extra strength. But do take your scraps and practice.
Jem, thank you so much for your intel on wire. I always find that every time I watch Jem, I always learn something new. Even if it's a technique that you've repeated, there's something that sticks or that an aha moment can come.
I'm pleased.
And it's really wonderful to learn from somebody who is so knowledgeable as yourself. Thank you again for coming out here today.
Thank you so much, both of you at Beadalon and at Jessie James Beads, for having me. It's always a pleasure. It's always an honor. I love that so much. I will sign off and I'll be back next Thursday with monthly magical mystery bead box for fun and shenanigans.
Oh my gosh, I cannot wait for Jem's next week with the Magic Mystery Bead Box. Yay. Okay, Jem, have a great evening. Thank you again. I can't thank you enough.
Take care. See you soon, my darlings. Bye-bye.
Fun and shenanigans are two of my favorite things. I'm very excited about that.
Absolutely. I'll see you soon, guys.
Bye.
Bye, Jem.
Bye.
Meredith, I'm going to spotlight your camera now. We are ready to go down to Meredith's mat. We are in for hour two.
Hour two.
Hour two.
10 minutes in. I'm so sorry. I had a little bit of a technical difficulty. I don't often have technical difficulties, but when I do have technical difficulties, they are very difficult. But I got everything all squared away. You'll notice that I'm in a little bit of a different spot today. I am in the Beadalon studio. I usually do not go into the office on Thursdays, but we had our holiday party today. So I am back in the Beadalon studio and things are set up a little bit differently. It just took me a moment to kind of get myself together. So I appreciate everybody's patience. And oh my goodness, what an amazing tutorial that Jem gave us on all of these beautiful rose gold findings. So this is part of my project today. So this all came about, we had kind of mentioned it earlier, because Sarah from Jessie James Beads put together this amazing rose gold collection. And I love rose gold. I love all things rose gold. And the collection complements all of the rose gold findings, pieces, and parts that Beadalon has so well. And there are so many things, let's face it, that Jessie James Beads and Beadalon coordinate and collaborate and play so well together with. But this is a particular collection that really grabbed at my heart, because where there are things that we really need for Beadalon to be able to design with, aka beads, Jessie James Beads has the amazing beads that coordinate. Additionally, Sarah has this beautiful paperclip chain, which just warms my heart. And I don't know if Jem showed also the gargantuan paperclip chain. This was another thing that really inspired me. And like I said, I really was overwhelmed by all of the different things that I wanted to do for this collection. And I know that Jem went over and showed all of the pieces and the parts and the beads. And as we're showing, and as I'm kind of going through my project today, I'm going to talk a little bit more about all of the amazing pieces and parts that we have at Beadalon, many of which are on the Jessie James Beads site as well, in rose gold. So what I did is I thought, after much contemplating and a little bit of uh, discussions with some of my design friends, aka Kelly Taylor. I don't know if she's watching right now, but she helped talk me down yesterday. Maria, yes, I have rose gold on my watch also. And luckily, right 5 minutes before I went live, I was able to get the comments up on an extra iPad down here in the studio. So Yvette is upstairs putting in the links, and I'm very, very grateful for her, to her and for her for doing that for us today. So I thought I would make a project that is worthy of a holiday party. A little glitz, a little glamour, a lot of sparkle, and some beautiful rose gold. One of the things, speaking of challenges, that I love that Jessie James Beads challenges me to do is to mix my metals. I am generally, and I would love to hear from the crowd, are you a one metal kind of a designer, or do you like to mix metals? That's something that I've gotten much better at. I'm still can't really do asymmetrical signs or asymmetrical designs with much joy, but I'm getting better at mixing my metals. And one of the things that I did in this project is mixed gold in with the rose gold. So there are 3 components of what I made today. And what I love about this project is I dove down into my basic skills. So when we're learning about beading, when we're first getting started, we learn how to crimp, we learn how to do our wire work, we learn how to join things together. And then once you have those 3 kind of basic skills, you can do so much. Of course, there are a gazillion additional things, additional wire working techniques. There's always something new to learn. I'm still scratching the surface, and I've been at this for over 20 years. I'm still learning something new every day. But once you know these basic things, crimping, a little bit of wire work, and how to put it all together, you can make amazing, amazing jewelry. And I know most everybody who is watching today already knows this, but I like to not take for granted that maybe we have somebody new who's like, what is this jewelry making? What is this all about? Can I do it? And the answer, of course, is always yes. So, like I said, we're going to designing a fabulous, sparkly next level necklace for a party. I actually have a party to go to on Saturday that I might have to build my entire rest of my outfit around this necklace because I love it so much. But what I did here, I don't know if you can tell, but I took 3 strands of gold wire. So I'm using 19 strand gold color in an 024. So this is pretty thick wire. This is pretty substantial wire, but all I did was braid it together. There are 3 strands, and I did it camp helper style. I had my friend Karen hold one side of it, and I just braided just like you would braid hair. And the way I finished it off, I already finished this side, but here I used one of my favorite finishing techniques. I used a number 4 crimp tube. So when you get those variety packs of crimp tubes and you're like, what am I going to do with these number 4s? This is what you do. A number 4 crimp tube, I have 3 wires going through, and then I have 1 wire around and back through, and I am going to use my mighty crimping pliers to come in here. I already did that first or that second step with making the jelly bean in the back and then bringing it to the front and folding it over. And once again, I'm rounding it around to make sure that that crimp is crimped in all of the places, but I am not coming through and smushing it. I know it's so tempting. We always want to do it. I want to do it too, but I'm not going to because I know that my crimp tube and my crimp pliers are calibrated and I don't need to smush it any further. I'm just going to come in here and give a little snippy snip of all of my ends. And just like that, I have my first strand. Now, what did I put on my first strand? Well, if you don't know what this guy is, it is an instant pendant. And when you see the instant pendant in the pack, it looks a little something like this. We have two in rose gold. We have one that has an arrow or a cone on the bottom to make it look kind of like an arrow, and then one that has a rounded end to it. And these guys are great because they are interchangeable. Okay. And again, one of the perfect marriages, the perfect friendships between Beadalon and Jesse James beads, because many of the holes of the Jesse James beads are on the larger side, right? So I strung on 1, 2, 3, 4 beads from that amazing rose gold mix. And then this guy just screws right back on. If you want to make it permanent, sure, you could put a little bit of glue in there and let it dry, and then it's not going anywhere. But I like the option of switching things out. We have done lots of different Facebook Lives, lots of different tutorials, lots of different examples on our rose gold pendants. And these are available in silver color or silver plated and gold color as well. So 3 different colors, but we're rosé all day. It's all about the rose gold. And a nice big loop here too. So again, we're like interchangeable all over the place here. So that's my first level, or my first strand, I should say. And I made this first strand about 16 inches. The mat that I'm working on is about 16 inches, and I also measured it before we came on live. So let's talk for a second. This is where it all began. A couple months ago, I asked Sarah if she had rose gold paperclip chain because I became obsessed with finding the perfect one. And she found it and she added it to her shop. And if you don't have this yet, after we're done today, run to your computer and order it because it is gorgeous and I love it and it makes me so, so happy. So I am down here. Let's just bring that right into the frame. I have a measuring device here and I'm going to cut this at 16 inches. Okay. And I'm just kind of guesstimating. Usually when I do a multi-strand necklace, I like to do like an 18, a 16, and a 15. You might decide that your lengths are different than that, but that's kind of where I usually go to for my sweet spots. And then if I need to adjust afterwards, I do that. What I like to use to cut any chain really, but especially something as substantial as this, are my memory wire cutters. So once again, we use memory wire cutters for memory wire, but they are also really great at making short work of lots of other materials as well. Of course, the reverse doesn't apply. You can't use anything else on your memory wire, but to cut the chain like this, to cut thick wire, those memory wire cutters are definitely where it is, where it's at. It's not one of my favorite expressions, but in this case, it works. So then I was thinking, again, kind of back to the basics. We did basic crimping here. We're attaching a chain here. Let's do a little wire wrapping. And I knew that going head to head, or back to back, I should say, with Jem Hawkes, I needed to really level up my wire working. But I decided to keep it simple, right? Even though this is kind of a complex, many parts design, I'm keeping it simple with technique. And here I'm just doing some wraps, some simple wrapped loops. And I'm going to bring in, Jem was working in the rose gold artistic wire. Today I am working in the rose gold color craft wire. Now you might ask, what is the difference between artistic wire and color craft wire? It is very, very similar. They are both copper cord. They are both silver plated with a rose gold color. They both have a tarnished resistant coating on top. The put up of the Colorcraft wire is a little bit different. It's on a spool like this, a more of a bobbin spool. The artistic wire, comes on a spool like this, or the smaller spools as well. In terms of temper, they're very, very similar. The Colorcraft wire is a little bit more affordable, but I would encourage you to try both and see perhaps which one suits your fingers and your fancy more. We also have rose gold color in the German style wire. And that's when you start getting into your more of a half hard temper of wire. But here we're dead soft, and that's what I like doing for my wrapped loops. The older I get, the less wear and tear I want to put on my body. So if I am doing repetitive wire working, I will tend to work in a softer material. But when I am doing more of a fancy wire wrap, like a wire wrapped stone or a wire wrapped cabochon, that's when I tend to go with my German style wire. Just making sure I'm still in frame here. I'm going around twice. And one of the other things that my friend Sarah sent me, because she knows that I love a seed bead, is I'm going to show you in just one second. Where did it go? Here we go. The Color Trends Seed Bead Max in rose gold. And you can see I've already taken 2 colors out. But I like to use seed beads as stopper beads when necessary. So here is one of the other colors. And I'm just going to bring this into frame, and I'm going to grab one. And usually I can get that size 11 seed bead over my 20 gauge wire. Now, the reason why I am putting that seed bead over the 20 gauge wire is because I'm making this little component here, right? We were talking about symmetry a couple of minutes ago. And with that, I'm putting on this little rondelle, but this little rondelle has a big old hole. And so I'm putting that seed bead there to take up a little bit of the space of that hole. So it makes it a little bit easier to do my wire wrap, but B, a little less wiggly. It takes up a little bit of the slack there. All right, so whenever I do a wrapped loop, I always I switch hands. There are a lot of different ways of achieving the goal of a wrapped loop. But I started with the pliers, the round nose pliers in my right hand, and I finished with them in my left hand, and then I put them down on the left, and I always, without fail, seem to look for them on the right. I don't know why that happens, but when you see me kind of looking around, well, you can't see me looking around because we're only on one camera today. But I'm also now coming in here and tucking in my end. Sabrina says she likes to mix her metals. I'm getting better at it. Still not great with the asymmetry, but I'm definitely getting better at mixing my metals. All right, so when I make my wrap loop, I like to do my bend and I do this differently also different times, but I'm making that 90-degree bend with around my round nose pliers. Then you saw with my finger, I bring it around the top jaw of my pliers, and then I switch. So I'm on the top jaw and I come into the bottom jaw and I switch hands. Then I use my chain nose pliers to bring that end back toward myself. So now I'm working at a 90-degree angle here. And then I like to use the push and pull technique to wrap that wire around. If I'm using wire that's a little bit thinner, sometimes I can do more of a wrapping motion. But with the 20 gauge wire that I'm using right now, that push and the pull is really, really what helps me do a better job at getting a nice tight wrap. And then of course, if I didn't get a nice tight wrap, I can come back in here with my chain nose pliers and just give a little squish and bring that all together. Make sure that that wrapped loop is nice and even. And I'm going to put my last bead on here, and I think I got my spacing right. We're going to double check on that really quickly. So I will say that the lights down here in the studio are fantastic. That's one of the things that I'm always struggling with in my home studio, is making sure that there is enough light for video, whether it's Facebook Live or if I'm doing a class or even on a Zoom call. I feel like that's one of the things that I'm always working on in the home studio, but we have 3 professional grade lights blaring down on me right now. And not only is it better for me to see what I'm doing, but I think it's really great for you all to be able to see what I am doing as well. And of course, I always tuck my tails in when I'm doing wrapped loops. That's always the difference between a nice professional wrapped loop and a wrapped loop that might be a little loosey-goosey, so to speak. So one of the other great things that we recently added to the Beadalon product mix are these variety packs of rose gold findings. So in here, there are a couple of different sizes of jump rings. There are lobster claw clasps, there are spring rings, and there are tags. And it just brings me so much joy that we have these in our product mix, especially when it comes to linking things together. If you caught the first hour of our Facebook Live today, you saw Jem made her own jump ring. And I apologize, Jem, I should have sent you in advance of our Facebook Live today. I should have sent her some of these findings variety packs. She wouldn't have to make her own jump ring, even though easy enough to do. So I'm just going to, I'm fishing out the smallest of the jump rings. And while I was on the phone with Kelly yesterday, I happened to drop my my little pack of findings here on the floor of my studio. So that is why everything is all jumbled together. Finn was very confused. He did not understand the words that Mama was using. They weren't good words. They weren't let's just say they were grown-up words. Some choice grown-up words when the findings pack went careening off of my desk and onto the floor of my studio yesterday. That was not a fun moment. But it was okay because I was able to pick them all up and put them back in. And now I just kind of have to go through and find it's like a treasure hunt for finding the jump rings that I need. And again, in this mix, there are just the prettiest beads. I just kind of did a random yet symmetrical. How's that? It's progress, right? A random yet symmetrical wrapped loop chain of beads. And I found that the more I do these wrapped loop chains, the more I realize that putting them together with a jump ring rather than linking them to each other is a good idea, for not for the least of which reason is that oftentimes when you're making they're rosary style chains, how many times do you forget to attach it and you've made your wrapped loop and oh man, I thought that I had linked them together, but now I have to cut it apart. But I think it also adds some nice visual interest to have those rings there. I don't know, I just think that it looks nicer. All right, so I'm taking my measuring device back out. And once again, even though I don't have all of the things that I have on my table at home, I've still managed to junk this up with a lot of different supplies. This is about 16 inches. It might end up being a little bit too long, but I'm going to go with it for now. And maybe my multi-strand necklace is going to be a little bit longer than I had originally anticipated. But we can kind of zhuzh it around as we're bringing everything together. So one of the things as I was working on my design in the beginning, one of the things that I was thinking about was maybe making some dangle-doos. And luckily, we have at Beadalon not only flat head pins, but we also have ball head pins. There we go. Ball head pins in the rose gold color. Oh my gosh, so fun. And it's what's really cool is as I was bringing or kind of assembling all of the things, I remembered we have wire guardians, we have crimp covers, and we also have a ton of memory wire and flat and square and half round German style wire. So much rose gold goodness. I encourage you to head over to the Beadalon website and search on rose gold and see how many things come up, because it's a lot of stuff. So one of the things I have learned is that maybe I cut my chain too small. But because I'm going to be linking things together with rings, I'm actually going to be using the larger rings from the findings pack. We can kind of judge things around a little bit. But what I'm going to do in the interim, I'm going to take one of these rings and I am going to open it up. And I'm just going to attach everything together. Let's kind of see what's happening over here. And I'm just going to give that a nice wiggle to close it. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And it might happen that my wrapped loop strand and my chain strand, they might change places, because I think that it ended up being a little bit longer, but we'll see what happens. This is like a half design on the fly, half prepared, half I had an idea in my head of what I wanted to do, but I also wanted to leave it open for some creativity to see what sparked me. What sparked me on the way. Yep, Peggy says I always forget to connect my loop before finishing the wrap loop. You know what? I think that we should all take the opportunity to just do our rosaries with jump rings in between. I think, wouldn't that just make life so much more happy and pleasant for all of us? I'm just really quickly off camera pulling my design up to see how it's going to lay. And I think what I'm going to need to do is exactly what I thought. So because I made my wrapped loop a little bit longer, I'm going to take one, it's going to take 2 lengths out of the paper clip chain and see where that gets me. I really liked when Jem, what was it that she had done something that was a little not quite what she wanted, so she needed to backtrack and solve the problem. That's what I really think a lot of jewelry making is, right? Is solving problems. We have to figure out, okay, this is a little bit too long, or this is a little bit too short, or this isn't quite lining up right, or oh my gosh, I forgot a bead. How do I solve all of these problems, right? So in working together and doing these Facebook Lives together, I think it really helps us all become, myself included, better designers and better jewelry makers. So once again, I'm using my memory wire shears, my memory wire cutters to cut that chain. You could probably do it with your your blue handled cutters, but why risk? Why risk putting a little dent or a little dull spot in those pliers? Just use the right tools for the job. All right, so I shortened that up a little bit, and I think that that's actually going to be great. Okay, so now let's talk clasp. So one of the things that I love in the Jessie James collection is this crown clasp. I don't know if Jem had shown this one or not. If she did, please forgive me for showing it again. Um, but so pretty, right? It's this really fun crown clasp. But I'm not sure that I'm going to use this in this design. What I thought instead I would talk about, just because I'm down in our studio and I have all of these things at my disposal, and we were talking about these in a call the other day. I wanted to bring in the findings forms. These are two of my favorite findings forms that we have. And if you don't know what the findings forms are, they're these little jigs, these little acrylic jigs, and I'll open one up in just a moment. And what these little acrylic jigs do is they make, in this case, either a Z hook clasp. This one's my favorite, or an S hook clasp, which I think is actually the one that we're going to do today, because I think that design wise, this one is going to look a little bit better. We also have these guys for earrings and for findings and for rings and bracelets. And let me think, what else? Usually when I'm at home, I can cheat and go online really quickly and remember all of the different ones that we have. But if you haven't used the findings forms before, I really encourage it. These are great little jigs. And what they do is they make it so that each time you make either the ear wire or the clasp or whatever it is that you're making, the component, they're always going to be the same. Okay, so let's dig into this, shall we? Wanted to use this one, is going to be the S hook jig, and I was kind of playing around beforehand. I actually made this one using my steps bail making pliers. So if you have step bail making pliers and you feel good about that, by all means, again, there's almost always, right? More than one way to achieve a goal in jewelry making. And the part of the reason, once again, I know I say it a lot, but part of the reason why we have a lot of different tools and a lot of different ways of achieving one goal is because one person's favorite way of doing something might not be another person's favorite way of doing something. So we want to provide lots of different ways of doing things so that everybody can do the things. Okay. Oh my gosh, amazing, amazing instructions, right? So many steps, 14 steps to take you through each and every step of the way. And I love looking at instruction pictures and trying to figure out if they are Wyatt's thumbs or my thumbs. And I think that in this case, they're Wyatt's thumbs. But we always write the instructions together. So this is the tool, or the jig, I should say. And just in case you're curious, this is the part number. I imagine that Yvette probably has put the link in to this guy already. And I am going to use, where did my 18 gauge wire go? I had some 18 gauge wire that I grabbed and put out for this very purpose. And that's 24. Here's 20. It is probably right in front of my face. All right, well, we're going to do it with 20 gauge because I 100% had my 18 gauge wire and it is not in front of me right now. Isn't that interesting? I love when things just walk away. All right, well, we'll do it with 20 gauge. But what I would recommend is using either 18 or maybe even a 16 gauge. And then also, Jem showed her steel bench block. Do a little tap, tap, tap on that bench block. I'm just looking to my side here. At my home studio, almost everything is within arm's reach, but that is not the case, unfortunately, here in the Beadalon studio. It's a little bigger down here. All right, so I'm going to look at the instructions. I haven't done this guy in a while, so I'm going to go ahead and just going to follow along with the instructions that we wrote. Make sure that they're right. This is how they are, because I've done this before. It says to cut a 4.5 inch length of 18, 20, or 22 gauge artistic wire. Mine's much longer than that, but you know how I do. And there's a center hole right here. I'm just going to put that through the center hole and then bend it down in the back. All right, so now we're going to work on the front side of the findings form. And I'm going to, just kind of following along with the instructions, I'm going to come up and over the peg on the front of the jig. And I'm wrapping the wire clockwise around the peg. Now you can see I'm moving the jig, not wrapping the wire. And that is the key to really any jig work, but following along and moving that jig around and around, that is what is going to get you a nice wrapped, a nice tight wrapped piece. Trying to move this around with your fingers, not only will it be incredibly frustrating, it will not yield as nice of a result. So now I'm just coming in here, I'm snipping just to remove it from the jig. I'm gonna kind of shimmy it up. And now I have to clean this up because I did not do a very neat job of trimming it, which is fine. I want to make sure that I'm holding my cutters so that I am trimming the flat side against the material that I am removing, because I want a nice flat cut. Did I do that right? I don't think I did that one right. I can just tell by looking at it. I didn't do it right. I feel like I spend, and I'm sure that you can relate to this, a lot of time just kind of flipping my tools around in my hand as I'm working. Do you feel that also? And because I don't have a bench block, but this does need a little bit of work hardening, I'm going to use my nylon jaw pliers and give it a little squeeze. Jem did a really good job talking about and demonstrating how she gives her wire a little squeeze to get that work hardening process started. What we're doing is we are compressing our wire molecules so that they are running around a lot slower. And when they run around a lot slower, they become harder and our wire becomes stronger. Okay, so let's see. I just want to clean these loops up just a little bit. Get them nice and closed up as much as I can. And I'm going to go ahead and loop my findings form through that big loop over here. And I'm going to squeeze one side closed. And again, if you were using 18 or 16 gauge wire, which is what I would recommend, this would be a little firmer. It would hold a little stronger. Oh, I almost forgot. I don't always use this little piece, but it does come with the tool. And what that's really good for is making sure when you're working on the jig that you're getting your wire nice and tight around. It's just kind of one of those extra things. Again, do you have to use it? No. Do I usually use it? No. But is it there in case you need it? Absolutely. All right, so let's come over here and pull that through. And I really like that actually as a way of finishing off my necklace. Very pretty. I'm going to pull this up really quickly and just take it out of camera so I can check and see. Oh, that lays very, very nicely. Perfect. Okay, I'm very, very enthusiastic about how that guy finished off. And I'm very much looking forward to sending a photo to Kelly Taylor, because I was panicking yesterday afternoon when we were talking about just what I wanted to do. I had too many ideas. Does that ever happen? You have too many ideas for how you want a project to go? So we have a little bit of extra time. So why don't we go ahead and make a bracelet with the leftover beads. So I have here in my hand some of our heavy duty rose gold memory wire. Let's see, we have heavy duty rose gold in a necklace size, which goes right here. And we have it in the bracelet size. And then we also have it in not extra heavy duty, in the regular temper of memory wire that you are used to. And that guy looks like he is caught on a bracelet size, but it's a really good way of showing the difference in the diameter. So the extra heavy duty is a good solid millimeter of thickness. So again, those big holed Jessie James beads are perfect for this stuff. And the standard size rose gold, the non-extra heavy duty, it's a little bit thinner. I mean, we're talking thousandths of millimeters, but we're beaders. We know that thousandths of millimeters actually does make a pretty big difference when you're talking about beading, especially if your beaded holes are different sizes, right? But we're just going to kind of play around with just for our last little bit of time with the heavy duty memory wire. And I think I'm going to do 2 coils. That's oftentimes where I start. And once again, what are we using to cut our memory wire? Is our memory wire shears. What is Maria asking? Are those rose gold findings in the box? This little box right here. This is the variety pack. And I think I have one. This is what this guy looks like packaged. Obviously, there are more in there. This one has been well used, but I do have the packaging here. Much like any of our variety packs, it comes with lots of different things. This is 112 pieces, and we have 4 different sizes of jump rings, a lobster claw, a spring ring, and a tag. And those little tags I find are really good for connectors as well. I use them often when I am connecting like an earring component to an ear wire. Just really pretty extra ideas for extra uses for those guys. And these in all of the findings, I think we have them in 4 or 5 different finishes. I have these on my beading surface, and I mean, you watch me on Facebook Live, you see me going for them all the time. All right, so here we have some memory wire, and I've already turned a loop on one end. I'm just looking over here really quickly because I see that we do in fact have a memory wire finishing pliers. Yay! This guy makes short work of turning these loops. You do want to make sure, especially with the heavy duty memory wire, that you are using, yes, Maria, they are rose gold. You're using the larger of the 2 sides, and you're bringing that all the way down to the end or the end of the jaws. You do not ever want to turn your loops up here at the top, because these are these pieces of metal. Sure, they're soldered on, but especially the thinner ones, this is really strong stuff. So you just want to use the correct techniques so that you don't ruin your tools or your memory wire. Now, what I do not see over here is the other tool that I would use, which is, I'm just looking behind me to see if there might be one there, the pinch bail closing pliers. See that little teeny tiny space right there? With the pinch bail closing pliers, let's see if I can kind of create the same effect with my mighty crimpers. I can. You can use that just to bring that down so that it has a little bit less space here. Again, it's kind of short, small, incremental movements to get that loop nice and tight. But again, here we are. I have some extra beads. And actually what I think I'm going to do is Sarah was kind enough to send me 2 of these bead mixes. So in the interest of convenience, I'm going to pull this out. And all right, I'm going to do it. We're going asymmetrical. Let's see. I'm always curious if these guys, yep, they're a little too long to be able to go on. So these guys are right out. But I'm thinking, yep, we've got good hole sizes here. And nope, that one's right out too. I love these pearls. I don't know if Sarah can chime in and let us know anything. If there's anything to know about these gorgeous, gorgeous pearls. Do you have some good info?
I'm here to chime you.
Chime me about these pearls because they're the winners for me in this mix. I really like them.
That's the way, Rosé pearls.
It's so pretty.
Okay, so those pearls are, if I'm just gonna pull open right here, those pearls I believe are our matte satin finished pearls, which are some of my favorites. We have like a luster colored pearl, and then we have a matte. But what they are is they are glass pearls, and they have like such a nice radiance from the inside out. And fun fact, those pearls are actually hand dyed to get them that exact beautiful rose gold color that you're seeing by our team at Jessie James Beads.
Awesome. I love setting you up.
I've been here in the background, but I told Meredith, I was like, you go take it away. I'm going to mute. But if you need it, you just tell me to chime on in and I'll be there.
Love it.
I love this project, Meredith, and I really love to see you stretching your wings on asymmetry. We've been like, this has been like a topic that's kind of weaved its way in and out of this entire 2-hour special with Beadalon and Jessie James Beads, and look at you go.
I know that. Well, I thought it would be good to end on spreading my asymmetrical wings.
I love it.
I'm just going with whatever I pick up. I'm not even looking.
That's
see what ends up happening.
I'm proud of you.
It's getting a little crazy here at the end of the live.
Yes,
Meredith is going rogue.
She's going rogue gold.
Oh, nice. I like that. So has Axel had any more naughty noodle runaways?
Oh my gosh, thank heavens no. Watching him like a hawk. He got to go skiing the other day.
Oh my gosh, stop it right now. Tell me about that.
Yeah, he went, our friend was watching him and he took him up like just a small hill where you like hike up with your skis on and you put a rubber coating on the outside. It's called skinning, which I had never heard of until I moved to Colorado. But you hike. Crazy Coloradans. But it's a dog-friendly activity where you hike up the little hill with your skis on and the dogs hike up too. And then you turn around and go down and the dogs run down the hill. And Axel just thought that was the greatest thing since,
Oh my gosh, that's so cute.
I know.
Oh, I love that so much.
He's such a babe. And Meredith can attest that Meredith and I both have golden retrievers. So when she's asking about Axel, she's asking about my golden retriever. And one of these days, Meredith, we really do need to get Finn and Axel Rose together. I think they would just have a grand old time.
I could not agree more. Are you in Pennsylvania?
I'm back in Colorado now. I just got back late last night.
Okay, I was going to say, but you were here, right?
Yes. I had a hot tamale trip to go see my grandma.
Oh, yeah, hi, Grandma.
Yeah, Mima.
So cute. The other thing that I love about a memory wire bracelet is how fast this works up, because we are coming to the other side really quickly. And then we are going to be done. I'm going to, even though it clashes with my party dress, Sarah, did you notice the party dress that I was wearing?
I noticed the red and green delightfulness.
Oh no, it's so cute. When I bring my camera back up, we'll show it.
Outfit share.
I was under the mistaken impression that our holiday office party was a like a ugly sweater / festive wear kind of a party. It wasn't.
No one else dressed up?
Nobody else dressed up.
Oh my gosh.
But I'm wearing my party dress. So I don't
Meredith, you know what? You are the party. That's
something like that. All right. I think that is going to be good. We've got about one and a little bit more. I think we're going to be in good shape. Let's see. Are there any other beads here? Let's put the stragglers on. This one's a little bit too big for the end, but let's put this one on. And then I think that we'll be in good shape. Come here.
I love rose gold because it's so glam around the holidays. Like it just has that like magical sparkle to it. Oh, where'd she go? Oh, there she is.
Sorry.
It just has that magical sparkle to it that the holidays have. Just a little like glisten, a little romantic, sweet, kind of like sugar cookie sort of essence. But then rose gold you can wear all year round. So you can make rose gold and just glam up your holiday wear or give it to someone and you know they're going to love it because it's such a beautiful metal tone. And that's something that can be worn all year through.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of into discovering that the smooth jaws of the Mighty Crimper are really good at closing up those loops. Just want to make sure that I'm showing that right in the middle. I'm using the smooth jaw of my Mighty Crimper to bring those loops together. So if you don't have the pinch bail pliers, the Mighty Crimpers is another really, really good one to use for that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, she's
nice.
Beauty.
And it is asymmetrical. Symmetrical, asymmetrical. All right, so now I'm going to try this on and hope, oh yeah, I can feel that lays just right. All right, so give me 1 second, Sarah. I'm going to flip my camera back around. Settings.
This was so fun. I feel like just watching Jem and Meredith come up with jewelry designs is such a delight, especially in one of my favorite metal tones. I honestly, I could rank. I would have to think about ranking the metal tones, and we'll ask Meredith about this when she comes back too, because there's so many fun tones out there. Like copper's cool, rose gold is gorgeous. I am a huge fan of matte gold personally, and I gotta say, like gunmetal is really sassy too.
I'm so sorry, you guys are seeing all of this, and I don't mean for that to be the case.
That's okay. This is like, here, wait a second. I'm going to go back like this. This is like the blooper reel of the the backlot tour of Beadalon Design Studio. There she is. Where is she?
Oh, yeah,
anyway, this was great.
The brightness, the brightness keeps going all the way down on
Okay.
my phone. And so I can't see that little like change camera thing. And so I'm like frantically trying to get my brightness up, but I can't see the screen. So I can't see where the brightness is. It's just one of those days. Sometimes you have one of those days, and today is my day. But anyway, so here, this is my dress. It's doggy.
You're so cute. Oh my gosh.
So
hold on. Hold, please. One more time. It's doggies, everyone. Yay. Oh, I love it.
Right. So cute. And then we've got my necklace.
It looks really good, Meredith.
Once again,
I love what you did.
This one is in the way. Let me just pull this down. And
ooh, Gloria has a good question. Let me just see this really quick. Oh my gosh, Meredith. It's so good.
So fun.
Yeah.
I'll take a picture and post it on the Instagram later on the bust, and all, you know, put together and done nicely with an appropriate neckline. This isn't quite the right neckline for this necklace.
Yeah, but that's gonna look so good with like something. I mean, like the doggies are amazing. The doggies are
Not quite the
Rose
right
gold.
outfit for the necklace.
Gloria is asking, does rose gold look good with aquamarine? And to me, I'm saying that's a big old yes.
We do a blue and rose gold ornament.
Did we ever?
We sure did.
Oh my gosh. And everyone, hang on a second. Let me put myself over here in the spotlight just for real quick. So this ornament we learned last year at Winter Workshop. We have got a new rendition of this one with a new sassy color blend that Meredith is going to be teaching us. I kept wanting to call the ornament Sexy Christmas because it's the one that Meredith is teaching next week is red and black. It's gorgeous. But the Deck the Halls Christmas ornament. If you'd like to come and make along with us next week, that is right. I'm dropping the link right there and you can check that one out. But isn't this so fun? So yes, to Gloria, to your question, does aquamarine and rose gold look good together? I mean, all signs point to yes.
It's actually, I'm glad to now know that that's where that one is.
Well, it's about to be on my Christmas tree. Can I send it to you after the season?
100%. If you put the ornaments on your Christmas tree, that would bring me so much joy.
Okay. I was going to text you about it or ask you about it after this. Like, hey, I have that ornament. Would you mind if I adopted it for a Christmas season?
Well, the good thing is that ornaments actually, even though they look pretty complicated, especially if you stop before the fringe, they actually work up really, really fast. And so I have a couple of holiday parties coming up, and I was like, what am I going to bring? My traditional go-to is chocolate covered Oreos. Fun Meredith fact. But sometimes I don't have enough time to party. I'm going to come have a party. But sometimes either I don't feel like it, or I don't have enough time, or like it's a lot of stuff to get out and deal with. But I thought, wouldn't it be nice for a hostess gift to bring ornaments to parties? Because everybody loves a holiday ornament, and it's a really nice memento, and it's something that people can use year after year after year.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful idea, Meredith.
So that's what I'm going to be doing for most of tomorrow in preparation for a couple of things that I have coming up. I'm going to be very furiously netting ornaments, but the good thing is that I will also be writing the instructions for our ornament making class. So it's a win-win really for everybody.
For everyone that loves written instructions and video tutorial, Meredith Roddy has you covered for next week's make along class. Yay, I'm excited. Well, this was great fun, Meredith.
Thanks for having me, Sarah.
Thanks for having me, Meredith and Jem. We had a lot of fun this afternoon. It's always a good time when Jesse James Beads and Beadalon gets together. Don't you agree?
Oh my gosh, it's joy. Anytime that we have the opportunity, both of us jump on it. We're like, yes, let's do it. Let's do it live. Let's do it. Let's just hang out.
Yeah. Meredith's like, rose gold, I have this idea. I was like, okay, I'll do you one better. Let's get Jem involved too. So that was the essence of a very like excited Meredith and Sarah conversation back behind the cameras about a month and a half ago. And henceforth, we had today our double header Rosé all day with Jesse James Beads and Beadalon.
Yay.
All right, guys. Well, thank you everyone who came out. If you didn't catch the beginning of this, you can go on back and watch the wire wrapping tutorial with Jem. Meredith, your project was so super fun, and Jesse James Beads and myself are always so grateful and happy to spend time with you and our beady friends at Beadalon and the Beadalon crew.
Me too. Right back at ya.
All right, everyone. We'll be seeing you later. Have a great afternoon. Happy holidays. Happy Rosé all day.
And happy beading.